Stairs. What's up, guys?
Hello.
Hi. Sorry, I just jumped into a quick interview, and you'll find out on this panel. I talk a lot. So it's supposed to be like a 5-minute interview, and then I look at the time and 20 minutes had gone by. I'm like, whoops, sorry, voice actor, talk a lot. So yeah.
Hello.
Hi again.
How are you this morning?
Doing great. How's your convention been?
Pretty good. I'm a little tired. I've kind of been stuck in this room all weekend.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It happens.
Canada is beautiful. Toronto is beauul. And
Well, this room is beautiful, yeah.
This room is beautiful. I mean, I have a nice view through these windows. I can watch all of you guys down there like little ants. But aside from that, let us get started. Please introduce yourself for those who might not know you very well.
Yeah.
And please tell us a little bit about your career.
Absolutely. So I'm Bryce Papenbrook, voice actor. Yeah, thank you guys. Let's see. According to Wikipedia, so you might know me as Eren Jaeger in Attack on Titan, Kirito in Sword Art Online, Meliodas in Seven Deadly Sins, yeah, Cat Noir in Miraculous Ladybug. I could just keep naming things. I wasn't joking when I said I talk a lot. And yeah, there are lots of things coming that I can't talk about yet. I've kind of been teasing you guys with them, so I can't wait for you to see what I've been working on. It's really good. Man, what's up? Okay, bye.
Boss, man, don't worry, I got this. That's my boss. Just checking in. Please continue.
Oh yeah, sorry. Well, Wikipedia truly knows better than I do. It's so funny. People don't necessarily realize that voice actors don't get the scripts ahead of time, especially when we're working on anime. So the experience is this, for me. I wake up, I get dressed, I get in my car, yell at people in traffic. That's my vocal warm-up. And then I get in the booth. I have no idea what I'm going to be saying that day, and you just kind of live in that moment and become those characters. There's rare cases where I've had the opportunity of watching the shows before I've been a part of them. But even in those cases, I don't know the words I'm actually going to say because they adapt the script so it doesn't look like Godzilla. So the subtitles won't match what the actors say because it just wouldn't fit in the time that you have. Sometimes the translation from Japanese to English is really strange. I'll give you one example. I worked on a game called Tales of Graces. I play Asbel Lant. It's an awesome game. I had 3,600 lines as Asbel, which equated to my entire summer. Such good times. I recorded 2.5 months as Asbel, got married, went on my honeymoon, came back, recorded more as Asbel. So when you're recording on a game like that, sometimes they have moments where the lines are timed. And you have to be within a certain range of that time. So within half a second or 1 second or sometimes a quarter of a second. So if you go too long, you just have to do it again. If it's too short, you have to do it again. And the translation of one of the attacks for Asbel was something like Super Ultra Dragon Punch. And that was a line that was said in 0.7 seconds. So eventually it just became, huh! That's it. That's all you can do. So sometimes that happens, and the translation is just very different.
Awesome. Well, if you are all right with it, can we move on to our Q&A?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's not one thing that we have to talk about. Feel free to throw anything out there. Any of the shows I've been a part of, acting in general. Dad jokes, cat puns. I accept all of those.
Yes, this is a more generalized interview with Mr. Bryce.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to chat about.
Yeah. Hello, I love your shirt.
Yeah, that's sweet.
If you weren't as gallant
In Tales of Graces?
in Tales of Graces, what character would you pick?
I mean, in Graces specifically?
In any Tales.
In any Tales? Huh. I mean, it's hard to narrow it down. I think that they chose right. I think Asbel's a very good fit for me. It's not my choice what character I get to play. So we go out, we audition for as much as they let us audition for. And there's people called casting directors, and their jobs are kind of to assemble a cast that is cohesive. So if I was to play another character in another iteration of Tales, I might not mesh with the other people in that cast. So they might have to recast that entire game too. I can tell you this, I really love the franchise. And it would be amazing to be part of it in the future.
Okay, I have another question over here. Hello.
If you could be best friends with one of your anime characters, which one would you pick?
Well, probably not Eren Jaeger. Yeah, he would just break stuff. It would be awesome to be friends with Adrien from Miraculous, because he's super wealthy, everyone likes him, he has an awesome house, and he needs more friends to be able to hang out with. So yeah, I would love to be able to go and hang out and play with his awesome sound system and stuff in that mansion. That would be really fun. I think another character that would be fun to hang out with is Rin Okumura. Yeah, that would be great. Rin is just super happy all the time. When he's not burning people with hell flames, he's super happy. I feel like I would get along with him really well. Part of the reason is because it's a lot of me in that character. I just kind of jump in the booth and I'm Rin. And Rin has actually found his way into other characters, meaning I go into the booth and they kind of set you up for the character. They play you something that you've established. It's called a vocal ref. And that gets you back into kind of the headspace and the sound of that character. But every once in a while in recording, you slip out a character and the director's there to be like, whoa, that doesn't sound right. So the director for Sword Art Online, his name is Alex Von David. He also directed Blue Exorcist, and he would constantly, he has to hit this button for me to hear him. He goes, Rin, get out of the booth. You're Kirito, not Rin. And then I would say a line, he's like, still Rin, no. So Rin finds his way back in there all the time. Be great to hang out with him. If I can go outside the anime world, there's another character that I would really love to hang out with. So I don't know if you guys know this, but I worked on a mobile game called Disney Princess Palace Pets. And I voice Sultan, who is Jasmine's tiger, little baby tiger, and you can brush his hair and you can give him a bath. So I would just want to hang out with little Sultan and just pet him and have a baby tiger that sounds like me everywhere.
Your voices are great. I love it. Hello, we have another question.
Is there any character you tried or auditioned for or wanted to audition for and you didn't get the part and you were really disappointed about not getting it?
Thousands. I tell people, if you book 1 out of 100 auditions, you're doing extremely well in this industry. And I'm not joking. It's the same for me. Really, if you hold those characters in auditions too close to the heart, you'll just get your heart broken every day. So what I do is I give it everything I can when I audition, and then I forget I ever read for the part. And when you're cast in something, it's like you've won the lottery. It is so amazing, and that's one of the reasons I know that this is the right industry for me to be in, because I still get that adrenaline rush. If it's an anime and there's an opening theme song, I play the theme song on repeat 200 times, and just get hyped up to work on the show. But yeah, do you want me to name one that I would have loved to be a part of? So I'm a fan of this show also. I read for Morty and Rick and Morty. That would have been incredible, but would I have been the right Morty? No, definitely not. I listened back and I'm like, wow, I'm not that far away, but not Morty. So that would have been awesome to be a part of. And there's stuff like that all the time. I've read for, all of the major studios for Disney and Warner Brothers and Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. I've read on a ton of those things. And it's just very difficult. There's a ton of extremely talented voice actors that I'm constantly competing with. And as much as I want those roles, like, this industry is very supportive. Like, I'm just excited for other voice actors to be able to play them, and I'm just very thankful for the kind of lot in the industry that I have.
Okay, I'm gonna make my way through here. Excuse me. Hello.
There.
Yo.
Hey there.
Hi.
I believe my parents got me your autograph a couple of years back.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad they brought me back, and I'm happy to sign your stuff.
Yep.
Good looking out.
Yep. I'm very glad to finally meet you after not being able to the last time.
Yeah.
Okay, my question is mostly about your silver character in Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sure. I think he says something over and over before I voiced him. Something like,
"It's no use."
"It's no use." Yeah.
Yes. Do you think if Sega gave more time to him, do you think you would have done more to make the character more fleshed out? Because a lot of people consider that game to be one of the most rushed and horrible games in the franchise.
I mean, I don't know if it's a horrible game. It's just a racing game, and you don't have much time to say anything. When I mentioned, like, the timing of the lines, like, you really have no time. Like there were times when he would say a phrase and they're like, "Great, faster. Great, faster. Great, faster." Because literally you're saying those lines and Silver's just like, "Whoop," and you have to say the line clearly as he just, like, skids by you. Like, "Ha-ha," that's it. That's all you can say as he passes you. So there's not a ton of time to flesh that out. I know there's, like, those cut scenes, but even those are pretty minimal. It was just kind of an honor to be part of the Sonic universe, and I hope they continue to hire me as Silver. I'm taking over that role for somebody else. I have no idea why I was cast, but I'm just excited to play the role, and I hope they continue to hire me, and I hope they hire me in a either a game or a show that fleshes the character out more, so I can make him more my own. Because I have ideas that I would love to add to the character, but it's not always my choice. So we'll have to wait and see. Fingers crossed.
Got another one here.
What is the best Tales game, and why is it obviously Xillia?
I mean, I have to disagree. Tales of Graces that has this lead character that protects everyone. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Someone took every time Asbel says the word protect, which is like hundreds of times, and edited it together in this, like, supercut. So it's just like protect, and then there's one other line that Cassandra says out of context, like, "We should exit through the butt. Protect. It's super random. And I love it.
Also, I just tried to set you up to say, "No, that's wrong," and you did not take it.
Sorry. I didn't know you were crossing over Danganronpa and Tails. But, "No, that's wrong!" Or, "No, that's wrong." One of those. Either is right.
Okay.
Hey.
Yo.
So, in Fire Emblem Heroes, you and basically all of the other voice actors have voiced several characters.
Yep.
And I'm wondering are they auditioning for each individual character, or do they just kind of call you up when they need someone that would fit your voice?
So, I think a lot of the actors that were in Heroes were already part of the world. So for me, I played Henry in Fire Emblem Awakening. So they had brought me back for Henry, and then there were a number of characters that never spoke before. And they're like, who is in Bryce's range? Who could Bryce portray? And they assigned me 3 other characters. They had to do it that way because there were so many characters, like hundreds of them that they needed to cast for. It would have been really crazy to bring in individual actors for each one, especially because I only had like 10 lines as some of those characters. Like it was like some attacks, a couple random things here and there, and that's it. So I didn't get to learn as much as everyone who's playing those games, especially the original games, knows about them. So it was like a quick introduction. My typecast in Fire Emblem is like the characters that have squinty eyes. I don't know why, but it's like Bryce Army of squinty-eyed characters. And then one other character that doesn't have squinty eyes. That was the random offshoot. Like, let's see if Bryce can do this. Now we'll stick to squinty-eyed characters. But I hope they bring me back for more. It's really fun. And I mean, Henry just has a special place in my heart because he was the first character that I played in Fire Emblem, and he's so insane. And I made him even more like I wanted to, like full-on evil Elmo. I literally do this laugh.
That's nightmare fuel right there.
It is, because he loves blood so much too. So it's super weird and fun.
Hello. My question is, what is your story on how you broke into the voice acting industry, and what suggestions do you have for someone, an actor who would like to?
Sure. There's not one way to get into the industry. Every actor you ask will give you a different answer. For me, I happen to be born in a family of actors. My dad, his name was Bob Papenbrook. He was working on a show called Power Rangers. He played Rito Revolto, the skeleton dude on Power Rangers, and a bunch of other monsters. I was actually looking up some of the things that he played. He worked on another show called Big Bad Beetleborgs, VR Troopers, a bunch of the Saban titles, and a ton of anime and video games and all sorts of stuff. So I was about 8 years old. I used to love to go to work with him because they had a bunch of the rubber monster suits kind of lining the stairs up to the booth. And he was incredible to watch in the booth. Like, he's just so funny, kind of larger than life, had the like deepest monster-ish sounding voice. And mine's the exact opposite. Mine hasn't changed since middle school. So they needed a kid's voice, and my dad's like, he's a kid, throw him in the booth. And that's how I started. So that kind of got my foot in the door. But it's been an incredible amount of work to really move myself forward in a professional way. I had things here and there growing up. So I mentioned to a couple people, I have one line in a show called Cowboy Bebop. I was at a convention with Steve Bloom last weekend, and I ran into him at the airport, and he was talking about Bebop. I'm like, I got one line in that show. And he's like, what? And so they go to Mars, and there's a bunch of orphans, and there's one of them with this little robot, and he's like, look at this. That's me. It's a kid with a pot on his head, and in the script it said pothead. So I'm Pothead in Cowboy Bebop. High up on the resume. So yeah, good time. So that's how long I've been around the industry. My first lead was in a show called Dot Hack Sign, Legend of the Twilight Bracelet.
Oh my gosh, I remember Dot Hack.
Yeah, so it's really kind of surreal because that was me as a kid playing a kid going into a game, just to grow up to be an adult playing a kid that goes into a game as Kirito. It's really cool that I was able to kind of find my way into the industry. Never thought it was going to happen. I went to UCLA. I studied political science and philosophy. It's a beautiful decoration on my wall. I thought I was going to go to law school, and I had always kind of been around the industry, and I booked a job and kind of booked another one and booked another one. I have no idea why. And I'm like, this is really fun. I should give this a shot. And my dad passed away about 13 years ago. At that moment, I wanted to carry on the torch and really gave it everything I could and haven't looked back. Yeah.
Another question?
So, little tips. Sorry, I know I talk a lot. Like, sorry guys.
It's my job to be so it's all good. Talk away.
There's things that every actor kind of does. You know, become an actor or an actress. Like, hone in on your craft. Practice any way you can by taking acting lessons or recording yourself. I like to talk to my dogs. It's fun. They think I'm insane, which is great. And put together a great voice demo. That's almost like your business card as a voice actor. That gets you an agent. The agent is the one that gets you the auditions. And how to book an audition, I have no idea. I feel like it's shooting darts at a dartboard blindfolded. What I've started doing is just making myself laugh during auditions, because if I'm excited about something and I think it's funny, maybe the other person will. I don't know. Yeah, so there's not one way to do it. And it's part of the challenge and part of the excitement of trying it out. Hi, Sinon.
Hey, I was wondering, when you're in the booth, have you ever gotten like so into a character that you like start doing actions and stuff?
Yeah, so I drive the engineers crazy, because so they always mic you. I guess one good rule is when they mic you at a studio, don't touch the mic because they're super expensive and they put them in the right place. So if you move when you're on the mic, it kind of sounds like this. So then you go back on the mic and then it could sound like this. And then you go on the mic. So you can't move too much even if you're in a fight scene. Everyone kind of has different ways of doing this. I've seen actresses sitting in a chair in front of the microphone in this epic fight scene. So like they're just sitting there like this, and it sounds like they're killing people. Like it is amazing to see. I can't do that. I stand up and I literally get into like a fighting stance. Being in martial arts, like I know what it feels like to throw a punch. I know what it feels like to get punched and get kicked. So I bring a lot of that into my performances. And I definitely use like physicality to help me out. So Attack on Titan, season 1, Eren bit his hand. So did I. I bit it so hard that I left a bruise, but it sounds so real. So there's moments like that where it adds a lot to the show, and I'm willing to take myself to those places for those kind of shows because it's what they deserve. Mike McFarlane, the director of the show, he wanted it to sound disgusting. So normally when you go in and you record, like you drink some water, kind of move it around, and it makes your voice sound cleaner. Like I don't do that when I'm recording Attack on Titan. I leave like spit in my mouth. Like I make it just sound really gross and gritty. And that's what he was looking for. And that's what I was hoping to be able to do. So if it sounds like there's blood in Eren's mouth, it should sound like there's blood in my mouth. Yeah. Keep it nice and gross.
Got another one over here.
Hi, my
Yo.
question is 7 Deadly Sins related.
Let's do it.
So, I was wondering what your feelings are on like Meliodas' story. Because he's gone through a lot, he's a powerful character, and he's going to continue to go through a lot.
Yeah.
Just wondering how you feel about Meliodas and like his story and everything he's been through.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what happens in this next season. I haven't read the manga, no spoilers. Who has seen 7 Deadly Sins? Who's seen all the way to the latest episode of 7 Deadly Sins? Who's never heard of the show? Sweet. Okay. It is.
Watch it.
Yeah, it's super fun. I play a character named Meliodas. He's one of the only characters I'm taller than in real life. So he's like this short, 5,000-year-old, overpowered pervert. Yeah. So it follows this gang called the 7 Deadly Sins, and a lot of insane fight scenes happen. And in this newest season, we start to get a little bit more information about my character and his past. And there's some scenes that happen in the cave that were just brutal. There's moments in the show that are just so funny. and so lighthearted and goofy and fun. And then there's moments like that are so deep and just destroy you. And I'm really interested to see where this next season leans. If it's going to get like a mix of everything again, which is kind of fun, or if it's going to give us more of the backstory, and if, what we learn about this character, because it's super interesting. He doesn't look like the Wanted poster, and I'm still not exactly sure why. So I'm really interested to see what happens. I've also seen some pictures of him that don't necessarily look like him. So I don't know what's going on still. So I'm just excited to find out more. Yeah, and I want to fight myself really bad. So Meliodas, for you guys that don't know, I have a trick for doing his voice. So what I do is I raise my eyebrows so high that it stretches out my vocal cords. And I also voice another character that looks very similar to him named Zeldris. And to do his voice, I lower my eyebrows. And it's all in the eyebrows. I don't know why for that show. So I'll give you one more warning about the show. For you guys that haven't seen it, if you start watching it, it's very hard to stop. It's a very binge-worthy show. So did you guys have this experience? Because I watched it in Japanese after it came out. So I watched one episode, and then I'm like, I can watch another one. And you get to the end, you're like, that was too fast. I'll just watch another one. And then you keep doing it, and then the sun comes up, and you're like, what have I done? So that's what's going to happen if you watch this show. I play one other character in the show. I don't know if you guys know this. It's a character named Lovehelm. And there's this, tricked you. So I was watching it in Japanese, and there's this arc where there's this tournament, and a bunch of the characters fight each other, and there's this referee, and he's like this little tiny thing with like a red sheet over his head with like a hole cut in it. And he's super annoying in Japanese. So I hear that voice, and of course I'm like, I could do that, and I start emulating the voice, and I'm like, I kind of sound like this Seiyu. And I went up to one of the producers, and I'm like, hey, so can I send you an audition for Seven Deadly Sins? And she's just like, you're Meliodas, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, don't worry, I'll just send it to you. She's like, I guess. So I go home, I record something, I send it in, and she writes me back, I think we can make this work. So I finished all my recording as Meliodas, and then I got an email saying, hey, can you come record some Seven Deadly Sins? I'm like, oh, Lovehelm? So I start practicing some more at home, and my wife at the time was very pregnant, and I was practicing, and she bust into my office, and she's like, if you do that voice one more time, I'm having this baby now. So I stopped practicing that voice at home. So eventually I went in, recorded Lovehelm. I'll do a little sample of what he sounds like. I have no control over the volume of my voice, so I don't need the mic for this character. Sorry in advance. And now, let the fight begin! Yeah, most annoying character in the show, and I get to talk to myself. Very proud of that.
I could not tolerate the Japanese. That was spot on. That was beautiful.
Yes, I hope it annoyed you as much as the Japanese version.
Hello.
Hey.
Yo.
What's the closest you've ever come to violating an NDA, or have you ever violated one before?
So for you guys that don't know, and this is good industry talk, common in the industry, we sign these NDAs or non-disclosure agreements, which are contracts that say if you say the wrong thing, we will sue you. So my goal is to not violate those NDAs. I try not to. I did violate one, but it wasn't my fault. Okay? So I worked on a show for Netflix called Saint Seiya, which I play a character who is a black cat. I was totally typecast as a black cat, which was hilarious. I thought it was great. He's a fun character. I noticed online a number of the other actors were like, go check out Saint Seiya. So I'm like, sweet, okay, they announced it. Then I looked online, and there's a website called Behind the Voice Actors, and I'm like, oh, I'm credited as this character. Awesome, everyone knows. Then I went on Netflix, and I'm like, there's my character. My voice is still coming out of that character's mouth. Awesome. Let's look in the credits. There's my name in the credits. Sweet, I could probably talk about this. So I'm like, check me out as this cat, guys. I immediately get an email. What are you doing? Don't talk about this show. I'm like, oh, delete everything. But I checked all those places first, and I'm like, it's probably fine. So Netflix accidentally released the show like for 5 minutes. I just happened to be watching the show right when you could switch to English when they accidentally released it. So I thought, it's good to go. It's public. Because typically when a show is out there and people know, you can be like, yeah, I'm in the show. But I wasn't supposed to. So I got a very angry email, and so did a bunch of other actors. And we're like, sorry, delete. So I always wait a really long time to talk about stuff. And sometimes when people ask, like, what are you working on? I like pause and like go through all the stuff in my head that like I know I can talk about. Because there are definitely things that I cannot talk about. And I'm really excited for you guys to like think about this and be like, wait a second, he might have hinted at something when they announce them. Yeah.
So did you get sued for that?
No, I did not. They said, remove this immediately. I'm like, of course. And I removed it, and they didn't sue me. But I know I've seen other voice actors full on break NDAs on accident, get fired. Like that's pretty common. It's really rare for them to like just full on sue you. I haven't seen that happen with friends of mine, but I have seen people lose jobs over posting things on social media, saying things that they're not supposed to. So I always try not to do that. Yeah, I've been pretty good about it. And actually, part of the reason why I am pretty good about it is they just don't tell me anything. They don't tell voice actors anything because they know we're bad at that. And if we don't know something, we can't ruin it.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to ask about a Fire Emblem related question because I love Fire Emblem.
Awesome.
So I know that you played Henry in Awakening, and you also play Kamui in Echoes.
Yes.
I've always wondered, ever since playing those characters, have you ever wanted to try and get into Fire Emblem at some point?
Like actually, like play the game?
Yeah, like play the game.
I'm terrified of it. Because I know if I get a device that allows me to take Fire Emblem with me everywhere, I will never stop playing. I'm a total completionist. I grew up playing a lot of JRPGs. Like I love Final Fantasy, and it's pretty incredible to be part of that series and to work for Square Enix. So I played Final Fantasy 1 multiple times, Final Fantasy 3 or 6, and Final Fantasy 7 all the way through. I have Final Fantasy 9 sitting at home. Someone gave it to me years ago, and it's still there, and I'm terrified to open it because I know I'll just drop off the face of the earth. I'll be like, I can't do that audition, I'm busy. So it's the same thing with Fire Emblem. Like that is right in like the wheelhouse of games that I love, and I'm terrified to pick it up. But maybe one day. If you see me just drop off the face of the earth, you'll know. Oh, Bryce is gaming.
Yeah, he's gaming. Hello.
Hi, I have a question. In terms of audition, I know that you mentioned you do it. It takes a couple of months to audition or like the voice. When do you get? How far before the actual dub comes out do you audition or do you voice for it?
So it depends. It's different every single time. And it depends on the roles you're reading for. It depends on the type of game or franchise it is. It's different every time. So Funimation is doing this thing called simuldubs, which is really insane. And what that means is they're trying to release a clean, beautiful version of the dub as close to the Japanese release as possible. And there's a ton of work that goes into that. So their casting timeline, like the amount of time that they have to cast, is super short. Like, they hear auditions, boom, you're cast the next day. But there's also some times where, like, I've read for a role, I try to forget that I ever read, and then months later I get an email, hey, you've been cast as this role. I'm like, oh, what is this? And they're like, yeah, you auditioned for it. I'm like, what'd I do? Because you just, like, you forget, and you do so many of these things and just put them out there, and it's just totally random. So it could be anywhere from, like, immediate, like, I had a good inkling that I was cast in something recently. I sent the audition in the morning. I was working on a different project in the afternoon, and the girl behind the desk that was working on casting said, I'm just working on these auditions right now. I'm like, oh, I sent mine in. How'd it sound? And she's like, for this one character, perfect. And like gave me the little like, eh? And then I got an email the next day, hey, we'd like to bring you in for this character. So sometimes it's that quick. It's like sent in the morning, new character in the afternoon. And sometimes you just don't know. Also the release of stuff. They don't tell us when they're releasing these things. So I've had games that we recorded and they just disappeared for years, literally years. Like I spent days and days in the booth working on some of these games, and they were just gone. No announcement, nothing. And you just cannot even talk about them. You just have to forget that you ever did it and hope that when it's released, at some point, it's your voice coming out of the character's mouth.
Okay, got another question over here. Hello.
Hey, Bryce. So kind of continuation on that. Given you've got so many auditions going and so many work going at the same time, have you ever had a conflict where you had to choose between one or another?
Where I had to like turn down work?
Yeah, where you had to turn one down, and then sometimes reflect back and go on shit. Kind of what the other one is supposed to want to get instead.
Usually, if they want you, they'll make it work in your schedule. There are definitely times where they can't, and that usually happens with group. So in dubbing or in video games, when it's one person to the booth, they have like a block of time and schedule, and they'll work around your other bookings. But if you're doing original animation, they record as an ensemble, and you have to be there with the rest of the cast. So there's moments where I've had those ensemble records conflict with something called Walla, which is recording background noises and bits in different shows and movies. And those also are a one-time thing. They happen just then, you have to be there, or it's gone. So I haven't had a ton of those crossovers. Fortunately, I've been really lucky with scheduling. I do know a really good trick. If you're trying to get into voice acting, you let me know if this works for you. If you're not available, if you leave town, you book everything. Every time I've gone to Hawaii, it's hilarious. And we used to go at least once a year. I have family out there. I love it on the island. Every time I land, I check my phone and I've booked something that records while I'm in Hawaii. Always. It always happens, and I don't know why. It's just a thing that happens, and it's part of it. Like, you have to be there to do the work. So it's like every time you leave the city or you go away from your recording setup, you're risking losing out on a job. So you just cross your fingers and hope that things work out.
Awesome. Okay, we have about 5 more minutes left, so space for maybe one more question. And I've chosen you.
That's a lot of pressure. Okay, 7 deadly sins question.
Yeah, let's do it.
So obviously a character like Meliodas is usually very happy and carefree, but he also has these moments that are so painful and then these moments of just absolute rage.
Yeah.
How do you prepare yourself for those lines in the booth when you have to kind of jump from being happy, carefree Meliodas to angry to painful?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. Honestly, there's no preparation for doing something like that. One, because we don't know what we're going to do the day of recording. We don't know what scenes we're going into or what we're going to say. And sometimes even if we have like an inkling of what we're gonna do, the director will be like, I only want to do happy stuff today. And then you're just in happy Meliodas mode the whole day. And they might be like, okay, we have 2 minutes left. Let's get some of these big screams out of the way. So you're actually recording kind of all over the place. And really, like, you just have a moment to kind of get into the headspace. And I use a lot of different tricks to kind of get me back to that. Like I said, for Meliodas, it's all in the eyebrows. So that gets me kind of into character. And sometimes I think about things that have happened that, make me either upset or feel a certain way. I know for Sword Art Online, to kind of like jump around to certain moments. So Sword Art Online, there's a lot of real love scenes and true, like, authentic love between Kirito and Asuna. I always imagine that I'm delivering those to my wife. So I play it very real. There's times that, like, there's characters that die, and I think about, like, very sad things in my life, to portray that in a real way. And even though you're not seeing me, like, I want that authentic emotion to kind of come through. So that's the technique that I use. I'm not a really angry person, so I think about traffic for Eren Jaeger, and for times with Meliodas. My real trick for Eren, because Eren is probably the angriest character I've ever played. I don't know. Has anyone seen a show called Revisions? Everyone's like, no. Milady has seen it. Okay, probably not the best show for her. It's a little brutal. So it's on Netflix. I don't know if it was even released in this country. I play a character named Daisuke, and he's very angry the whole time. And I'm like, how did I get cast as this character? Okay, he's angry. I see that. Then he starts screaming about protecting his friends. I'm like, oh, there's 2 in my typecast. Then he gets a robot with a sword. I'm like, that's it. That's my typecast. Guys with swords. So he's very angry. But I use this one for Eren, or I use this one. I have 2 Maltese poodles. They're cute, just little white fluff balls. I mentioned this a couple days ago when we had a panel. One's name is Minnie, the smaller one's name is Micro, and I had this bag of chips that I was really looking forward to eating, and those poodles, they ate my chips! And that's what I used to harness the anger for Eren Jaeger. So it could be anything. It could be anything that just gets you to those emotions, and that's kind of my trick. So it's different every time. It's really just what happens in the booth in that moment. So it's hard to kind of pin down each Meliodas piece, but it's something along those lines. No problem.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. We have like 1 minute left.
Awesome.
So we finished like right on time.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yeah. I just have to say, like, everyone here has been just so friendly and so fun. So really, thank you guys for making this such a great experience for me. I'm really happy they brought me back to Toronto, and I hope they bring me back here again.
Bryce Papenbrook, everyone.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I have a little bit more time that I'll be hanging out at my booth, so if you didn't get to ask me your question, please come by, hang out, ask away, and thanks again. Have fun, guys. Enjoy the rest of the con.